You're in the room. But people don't notice you right away. The conversation is moving fast. Laughter rises. Voices overlap. And you stay quiet. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you're watching. People assume things about silence. That it means shyness, or boredom, or a lack of confidence. But silence is rarely empty. Most of the time, it's full. We live in a world that rewards noise. Loud opinions, quick responses, strong presence. We're taught that speaking up means strength. That confidence sounds a certain way. That visibility equals value. So when someone stays quiet in a group, it feels like a violation of the rules. People wonder what's wrong. But here's the truth most people miss. Quietness is not the absence of thought. It is the presence of awareness. You didn't wake up one day and decide to be quiet. It formed. Slowly. Through moments where speaking didn't feel safe, or useful, or welcomed. You learned to pause before you spoke. To read the room first. To feel the emotional temperature. You noticed who was allowed to talk, and who wasn't. So you adapted. In group settings, your body reacts before your mind does. Your shoulders tighten slightly. Your breath becomes shallow. Your attention sharpens. You're not anxious. You're alert. You track faces. Tone shifts. Energy changes. You notice who interrupts. Who dominates. Who withdraws quietly like you do. You notice what isn't being said. And that awareness takes space inside you. So while others talk, you listen. Not passively, actively. You collect information. You make meaning. You connect dots. By the time you're ready to speak, the moment has passed. The conversation has moved on. So you stay quiet. Again. People call it reserved, or introverted, or shy. But that's only the surface. Underneath, there is strategy, protection, sensitivity. Silence became a way to stay present, without being exposed. This isn't about fear. It's about safety. And safety shapes behavior more than confidence ever will. Over time, silence becomes familiar. And familiarity turns into a role. In group settings, roles form quietly. The loud one, the funny one, the leader, the mediator. And then there's you, the listener. At first, it feels natural. You like observing. You like understanding people before engaging. But slowly, something shifts. People stop waiting for your input. They stop pausing after you speak. They assume you're fine staying in the background. Not because they don't care, but because you've shown them you can disappear without complaint. This is how quietness becomes invisibility. Not sudden. Not intentional. Gradual. You start to feel it in small ways. Your ideas go unheard. Your reactions are missed. Your presence feels optional. You're there, but replaceable. Inside, there's a strange tension. You want connection, but not attention. You want to belong, but not at the cost of exposure. So you stay quiet, and hope someone notices anyway. Silence begins to carry weight. Not because you hate people, but because holding yourself back requires effort. Every thought you don't say stays inside. Every reaction you suppress adds pressure. You're not empty. You're full. Many quiet people learned early that words can be risky. That speaking honestly could lead to dismissal, or ridicule, or emotional consequences that lasted longer than the moment. So silence became a filter. You don't speak unless it feels worth the cost. This isn't weakness. It's adaptation. But adaptation has a price. Because when you stay quiet long enough, you start wondering if your voice matters at all. You ask yourself questions you never say out loud. Would it change anything if I spoke? Do they even notice me? Am I invisible here? These thoughts don't explode. They sink. And sink quietly. Silence stops being neutral. It becomes heavy. What people don't see is how loud your inner world is. When the group conversation ends, yours continues. You replay moments in your head. The pause where you could have spoken. The thought that arrived too late. The sentence you edited away. Not because you regret being quiet, but because you process inward. Later, in safety, quiet people often think in layers. They don't just react. They consider impact, timing, tone. They ask themselves, will this add something? Will this disrupt the energy? Will this change how I'm seen? So silence becomes the safer option. Groups move fast. Emotionally, verbally, energetically. For some people, that's exciting. For others, it's overwhelming. Not because of fear, but because of sensitivity. Quiet people feel more than they show. They absorb emotional signals. They register discomfort early. They sense tension before it becomes obvious. They carry the emotional undercurrent of the room. And that takes energy. So staying quiet isn't disengagement. It's regulation. Many quiet people learned to stay small, to keep peace, to avoid conflict, to avoid being misunderstood, to avoid being too much. They learned that blending in was safer than standing out. So they mastered restraint. But restraint can become self-erasure if it's never balanced with expression. And this is where quiet people begin to ache. Not for attention, but for recognition. You don't need to dominate the room. You just want to feel included in it. You want someone to pause, to ask, to notice. Silence isn't the problem. Being unseen is. And deep down, you know something important. Your voice carries weight. That's why you don't waste it. There comes a moment when staying quiet stops feeling neutral. It starts to feel heavy. Not because you suddenly want attention, but because holding yourself back takes effort. And effort, over time, becomes exhaustion. You notice it after group interactions. When you get home. When the noise fades. When the room is quiet again. Your body finally relaxes. And suddenly, you feel tired. Not physically. Emotionally. This is the part people don't see. Quiet people often hold tension during social moments. They monitor themselves constantly. Their tone. Their timing. Their reactions. They are present, but contained. And containment costs energy. You might feel calm in the group. Composed. Balanced. But later, anxiety appears. Not because something went wrong, but because your system finally has space to release what it held. You replay moments again. Not with shame. With curiosity. With longing. You wonder what it would feel like to speak freely. To interrupt without guilt. To take up space without calculating the cost. Sometimes the exhaustion turns into sadness. A quiet grief. The grief of being surrounded by people. And still feeling unseen. You were there. You listened. You cared. But no one noticed how much you were holding. This is where silence begins to hurt. Not because it's wrong, but because it's unreciprocated. You give attention. You give presence. You give understanding. And you receive nothing. You don't want applause. You want acknowledgement. You want someone to say, I see you. I notice you. I'm glad you're here. Instead, you're told to speak up. As if volume is the issue. As if effort hasn't already been spent. So you grow quieter. Not because you care less, but because caring without being seen is painful. This is not withdrawal. It's self-preservation. And still, you stay. You show up. Because part of you hopes that one day, someone will pause long enough to notice the quiet weight you've been carrying. Here is the reframe most people never hear. Staying quiet in groups is not weakness. It is awareness. Quiet people are not disengaged. They are deeply engaged. They are tracking emotional currents. They are noticing subtleties others overlook. They are regulating not just themselves, but the space around them. Silence is often mistaken for lack of confidence. But confidence doesn't always speak loudly. Sometimes, confidence listens. Sometimes, it waits. Sometimes, it chooses restraint. Because it understands impact. Quiet people don't speak to be seen. They speak to be precise. They understand that words shape energy. So they don't throw them carelessly. This doesn't mean quiet people never want to talk. It means they want their words to land. They want safety, receptivity, mutual respect. When that isn't present, silence becomes a boundary, not a wall, a filter. Quietness says, I'm here, but I won't force myself where I'm not welcomed. That's not insecurity. That's self-respect. The problem isn't silence. The problem is a culture that equates worth with volume. That rewards interruption. That praises dominance. That overlooks depth. Quiet people often carry wisdom shaped by observation. They understand people because they've watched them. They notice patterns, motives, unspoken tensions. Their insights come from stillness. And when quiet people finally speak, in the right environment, the room changes. Because their words arrive with weight, with clarity, with truth. Quietness is not something to fix. It is something to protect, to balance, to honor. You don't need to become louder. You need spaces that listen. You need people who pause. You need conversations that slow down enough to let depth emerge. Silence is not the absence of voice. It is a voice waiting for safety. And when safety arrives, quiet people don't disappear. They rise. At some point, something begins to shift. Not suddenly, not dramatically, quietly. You start noticing which rooms drain you, and which ones let you breathe. The difference is subtle, but unmistakable. In draining rooms, you shrink. In safe ones, you soften. Safe spaces don't demand performance. They don't rush you. They don't interrupt you. They don't fill every silence out of discomfort. They allow pauses. And in those pauses, something important happens. You feel yourself returning. Quiet people don't need the spotlight. They need invitation. A glance that says, I'm listening. A pause that says, take your time. A question that isn't rushed past. Before you can answer. In the right spaces, you don't rehearse your words. You don't edit yourself mid-thought. You don't calculate the cost of speaking. Your body relaxes. Your breath deepens. Your voice comes out steadier. You might surprise yourself. You speak more than you expected. Not louder, but clearer. These moments can feel unfamiliar at first. Even uncomfortable. Because you're not used to being given room. You're used to fitting into gaps. But slowly, you learn something. Your quiet was never the issue. The environment was. Some spaces are built for noise. Others are built for presence. And quiet people thrive in the latter. This realization can be bittersweet. Because it brings grief. The grief of realizing how long you've adapted to spaces that never truly saw you. How often you blamed yourself. Instead of questioning the room. You mourn the version of yourself who thought they were too quiet. Who thought something was missing. Who believed they needed fixing. But grief makes space for clarity. And clarity brings choice. You start choosing where to spend your energy. Which conversations are worth showing up for. Which rooms deserve your voice. Which people feel safe enough to hear it. This isn't withdrawal. It's discernment. Quiet people are not meant to be everywhere. They are meant to be where depth is valued. Where listening is mutual. Where silence is respected. You begin to understand something else too. Your presence has weight. Even when you say nothing. Especially when you say nothing. And when you do speak. In spaces that honor you. You feel aligned. Not drained. Seen. Not exposed. This is not about becoming louder. It's about becoming selective. About honoring your nervous system. About trusting your timing. Quiet people don't disappear. They emerge. When the space is right. There is a moment when quiet people stop apologizing for who they are. It doesn't arrive with confidence. It arrives with permission. Permission to exist without performing. Permission to be present without explaining. Permission to be quiet. Without feeling invisible. You realize something profound. You were never meant to compete for space. You were meant to hold it. Quiet people don't dominate conversations. They deepen them. They don't rush meaning. They let it unfold. When you stop trying to force yourself into loud spaces, something inside you settles. You stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking, "What feels right for me?" This shift is gentle, but life-changing. You stop measuring yourself against noise. You stop equating worth with visibility. You stop shrinking to survive. And something surprising happens. People begin to notice you more. Not because you changed, but because you stopped hiding. You don't speak more often. You speak more honestly. Quiet people often carry generational patterns. They learn silence by watching others, by sensing emotional limits, by understanding what could and couldn't be said. Choosing to honor your quiet is not weakness, it's healing. You give yourself what you once needed from others: time, patience, permission, and slowly, your identity shifts from the quiet one to the grounded one, from the observer to the one who sees clearly. You understand now. Silence was never absence. It was preparation. You don't need to become louder to take up space. You take up space by being real. Quiet hope doesn't shout. It doesn't announce itself. It grows quietly, like roots. You build a life that honors your rhythm. Friendships that don't demand performance. Conversations that welcome pauses. Rooms that feel like rest, not survival. And when you look back, you feel compassion for the version of yourself who stayed quiet because it felt safer. They were doing their best. Now, you know better. You don't disappear. You choose. You choose when to speak. You choose where to belong. You choose to trust your presence. And that is not small. That is powerful. Because the world doesn't only need louder voices. It needs deeper ones. And yours is one of them.